Hello and welcome to another Cool Moves radio podcast. I'm Nick from the eclectic and indie and alternative show Point of Contact. I recently had a really enjoyable Skype call coffee date with the super charming Ed Wettenhall. Ed is the brains behind the emerging British indie project Ed the Dog, currently seeing a lot of success on the BBC. His new album Shame was released pretty recently and went straight into my favourite albums of this year. Ed was actually based in Singapore for this call, so I must apologise for some of the audio quality from Skype, although once you listen for a minute or two, you get used to it, it's absolutely fine. We talked about his past music projects, art, when we weirdly bumped into each other in America, his dogs, and a few other things beside. Yeah, I really enjoyed my chat with Ed, and I hope you do too. If you want to hear a bit of music from the album Shame, do head over to the most recent Point of Contact show on the Cool Moves website or on the Mixcloud. I'll drop you straight into the interview and do hope you enjoy it.
You might hear me at some point eating a biscuit. It's because I just went in, I'm having a cup of tea, I thought I'd have a digestive, just give that bit of English comfort while I'm here in Singapore.
I mean, I'm sitting here with a cup of coffee as well, so you may hear me slurping away too.
Excellent. I'm glad we can just put that out there first. Maybe you can go in with like dialogue and be like, me and Ed sat down for a cup of tea. A good, I don't know how many miles we are from each other, but quite a few, I'd say.
Literally the other side of the earth.
Yes, exactly. From the other side of the earth to one another.
And modern technology is fantastic, isn't it?
It is. Interestingly, my dad said something about that today. He was like, "Isn't it amazing that you can?" you can just message someone around the other side of the world. And I think it's sort of lost on us these days. It's like, if I can't, I'm like, why not? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, occasionally I'll have that, like, little thought process where I'll be, like, doing something, or, very recently I've got a friend who's out in Australia, and then she's just sending me a couple of messages. I was like, that's actually insane when I think about it. That's insane.
Exactly. And yet it's something that we take for granted almost always during those conversations,
Yeah, it's super weird. I always think, like, how interesting would it be to get somebody from, like, even like 100 years ago, it's like the minimum, even like 80 years ago, and just like bring them down and be like, look at all these ridiculous things.
Yeah, exactly. Look at this. Look at Facebook. I went to. Sorry to keep going off on tangents, but I went to a lecture by oh god, what was his name? It's someone my granddad loves. I'm trying to remember him. He's a conservative like auteur. He's like a historian. And we went to his he came to High Wycombe to do a talk about King Henry VIII. And it was, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's on Question Time like all the time basically, and does a bunch of programs for the BBC. He's not a politician, but anyway, went along. It was sort of an interesting lecture about Henry VIII. And at the end, just because I don't know why, it was just because it was in High Wycombe. He's like, he talks like this, and it was just like, it was very, very, very like sort of Oxford-born gent. And anyway, he's like, any questions at all? And one guy from Wycombe just like, what do you think King Henry VIII would have thought of Facebook? Like. Everyone burst out laughing. And to be fair to him, he was like, well, I think King Henry VIII would actually bloody love Facebook. He was an incredibly narcissistic guy. I think he would have loved the adoration that you can get through Facebook. And I was like, wow, it's kind of interesting. Sort of a strange one. I don't know how I ended up on this topic, but anyway.
His relationship status would have been fantastic watching over the course of a few years.
Well, he could have just left it at it's complicated. That'd keep it correct.
Let's start with a little bit of history. So I've known you since you were in Fish Tank all that time ago. I say all that time ago, it was only a couple of years actually. And it's kind of cool to hear a lot of the musical stylings from Fish Tank pour over into Ed the Dog. How do you think your years in Fish Tank influenced Ed the Dog?
Well, it's an interesting question. It's I think being in Fish Tank has like helped me in a bunch of different ways, like just getting good at playing live shows mainly. Like when me and Joe started the band, just as like a two-piece, and we immediately just went. I don't think we even had like that many songs together, and we just were like, "Yep, we did a practice," and we were like, "Well, now we've got to get a gig." And so it was very much my memory of Fish Tank is just like doing everything for the first time kind of thing. So like I'd already been playing in bands and stuff, but it was the first time like I'd done any touring of any kind, of just giving it a go basically. And I think that's part of the reason my songwriting has developed as well. Because up to that point, when I started Fish Tank, I don't think I'd written that many songs. I think I'd written, I don't know, maybe like 4 in all the time. I've been playing guitar, and then obviously, like I basically in Fish Tank ended up throwing every idea I have ever had at the wall and seeing what stuck, and that was really, really good and cathartic, and it felt great to like just realize that I could sort of do anything with being in a band. Like you didn't have to stick to just playing 3 chords, although I do like sticking to playing 3 chords now. But
3 chords
anyway,
are underrated.
Yeah, 3 chords are underrated. I think that 3 chord thing just depends on what part of the decade you're in. You know, the start it might be like, no, it's all about complexity, and at the end they're just like, nah. You know, it's swings and roundabouts. That's it.
Well, back to Ed the Dog as well. You've had so much success so far with Shame, especially on the BBC. So super congrats on that.
Oh, thanks, dude. It's been one crazy ride so far, and we're only 5 months in or something like that.
Yeah, it's insane. You know, it's you know, you've gone to recording these things in your attic. Am I right?
Yeah. So we what happened? Fish Tank obviously came to a close, and then I sort of sat around for a couple of months, kicking around ideas of what I was going to do, and I just started writing a bunch of material, loads and loads and loads of material, and basically I don't have access to a studio, so I started demoing them all, and just thinking, these will just be demos and I'll record them better one day. And then I gave them to my managers. So I sent, I think last summer I sent like 50 songs to Andy and Ben, and I just went, I don't know, what do you think of these? Like, are these any good? Am I onto something decent? And they were just like, well, we should just release this. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, because I've never thought of myself as a producer in any respect, or an engineer. So it's nice to be, I guess, told that this is good enough to actually release, because that's what I was doing, was essentially demoing everything, and those demos just happened to be, well, good enough according to them. And now I feel a bit more confident in my production skills, I guess. But it is all just made in my attic. Yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting that that's the stage that people can do. You just record something in an attic on a computer and send it out. And I think sometimes avoiding a studio is a really healthy process, because I think the production on Shame is super interesting in the way that some things are like really pushed, like especially the bass is really pushed on a lot of the songs. And I think that's something in a studio that was like so likely just to get cleaned up, and it just would not sound as punchy or as fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm massively into that what do you call it? Like that New York band scene that started up in like the early 2000s. So like bands like The Strokes and I suppose that's later on Dirty Projectors, but like Darwin D's and LCD Sound System, bands that just tended to record stuff at home, or at least like had like a kind of like hand in the production. The whole emphasis was on keeping that realism and keeping it all gritty, and not trying to make something that sounds perfect and I don't know, like you say, like cleaned up. And so I tried for that really hard. I was just like, well, as long as it sounds like it was, I'm not trying to make it sound like it's in a studio. Let's record it the way, for the environment I'm in, as it were.
Yeah, and I think that's especially with some of the sort of lyrical content as well on the Shame, having that more honest recording and quite honest lyrics. I think it makes it so much more sort of emotionally accessible, I think, and that, to me, that's part of the success of it.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. I'm glad you think so.
Oh, that's all good. Yeah, I love it. It's such a good record. I was actually been playing it a lot this week at work, so it was interesting that you got back to me about doing this interview, and I was like, oh, what a weird twist of fate.
There you go. It's all working out.
All working out. And speaking of shame, huge fan of the art, and I know you do it all yourself because I've seen it on your Instagram story.
Yes, I do it all myself. Yeah.
It's cool. It kind of reminds me of Keith Haring. It's a bit hieroglyphic, which sort of I wanted to ask who your art heroes were.
I mean, Keith Haring's definitely up there. Like, I have absolutely loved his work for ages, even though I didn't know who he was until I don't know, like, I think towards the end of 2016, like someone, I think it was Joe Jeffco actually pointed out that's the guy. And I was like, oh, that guy, like, obviously his stuff is so, prolific. It's everywhere. And I just didn't, I'd never had a name to put to the art. But some of the other people I love are, there's a guy called A.R. Penck. He was a German painter. I'm quite into, how do you put it? Like stuff that looks, ancient or primitive. I'm quite into like very, very bold, like, I don't know how to put it, like rushed stuff. A.R. Penck stuff isn't rushed. It's very, it draws on a lot of ancient influences, and it feels like quite, African in a lot of ways, but also, there's a lot of like, cave painting vibes to it. And, again, hieroglyphics are all placed in his work, and sometimes he works mostly in like two colors, which is something I like to do as well. Like he'll just, draw black onto a red background, or black onto a white background, or white onto a black background, or, and it gives this sort of like very, I don't know, like dense, strange look to it. I absolutely love his work. I was really fortunate enough to see one of his pieces by surprise when I was in an art gallery in Melbourne a couple of years ago as well. And I didn't know how big his stuff was either. Like, you can't tell when you're looking at stuff on Google Images how big something is. And I can't remember the name of the piece off the top of my head, but I walked into like an art gallery room, and there's just this absolutely enormous cave painting piece in there, and it just blew my mind seeing it. And it was just one of the best. I'm trying to think of some more art heroes for you. There's a guy, Henri Rousseau is another amazing artist, and again, sort of, I guess I don't draw like him, but I like the childlike element to his stuff. There's something very like simple and innocent about what he's trying to like, I guess, interpret. And that's why I kind of like minimalism as well. And there's also, George Condo is another big influence on me, and he's relatively recent. I only discovered his work over the summer, but he uses a substance called oil stick. So it's just basically like a really big, thick bar of oil paint that's like condensed, and you shave off the ends with a pen knife, and then you can essentially use oil paint in the same way that you can use like a piece of chalk. So having that. So if you look on my Instagram story, all those pieces that I've been doing on paper, those big pieces with, in blacks and yellows, and, are all just because I bought a big, set of oil stick and started using it. And it was like, so thinking about it now, it just makes me smile, because it's like been such a revelation for me and so inspiring to finally find like a medium that really, really works for me. The next thing I'm going to do is find a wall that I can use it on, but no one's allowing me yet. But soon. I'd like to do some more big pieces. But so check out George Condo's work as well. He famously did what's that Kanye West album cover? You know, the one where he's like having sex with like a devil or something, like on the front.
My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Yes, that's George Condo did the art for that.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that.
That's all oil stick as well, I think. He also is another guy who does very, very big pieces. Amazing guy. And also a very articulate person as well.
Who would have thought that today we'd connect Ed the dog with Kanye West?
There you go. There you go. Oh, man.
We've actually been very disrespectful because his name is now Yee, not Kanye.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I completely forgot that it's just Yee, isn't it now? Wow. God. I wonder how long that's going to last. Is it going to be like the whole Prince thing where he's like the artist formerly known as, right?
Maybe. I kind of hope he does like just roll a bit hard, although I have a horrible feeling that... Do you remember about 5-6 years ago, Snoop Dogg changed his name to Snoop Lion and just no one cared?
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. He just quietly kept being called Snoop Dogg and then just like left Snoop Lion, at the back. I mean, it's good to keep the dog in the name, I think.
It's like that's the one that's his one identifying feature is the fact that he is like Snoop Dogg. Mm-hmm. Like Snoop Lion sounds like a weird knockoff, like the bargain bucket version. It was because he was getting I think he was getting in touch with like his Rastafarian roots or something like that at the time, right? And it was his way of feeling more part of that. I mean, that's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's problematic when your brand has literally been Snoop Dogg for how many years at that point? Like 20, 25 or something? Probably, like 25 years.
Yeah. It's just not going to happen. We know you're Snoop Dogg. No one's going to creep.
Yeah, he's great though. I just feel like there's now no longer ever a rap album that comes out that he doesn't feature on in some way, shape or form.
Yeah. It's damn great. Oh man, I actually love his, that collaboration he did a while ago with Little Dicky. Did you ever watch that? The one where it's like Little Dicky's interviewing to
No, I haven't seen it.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. Hang on, I'm just going to quickly look it up.
Go for it.
It's called Professional Rapper, and it's got a really good video with it, a really well animated video that's just about like Little Dicky. Basically Snoop Dogg's interviewing Little Dicky to like become like a professional rapper as part of like whatever company Snoop Dogg owns. It's really, really good.
That sounds great. I'm definitely going to watch that.
Yeah, do. It's worth it.
The other good thing he did recently, although probably not quite as funny, was he did a great collaboration with Bad Bad Not Good's the song Lavender.
What? Is that true?
Yeah, it was massive. He did so Bad Bad Not Good have Lavender, which was off their 4th record, or was it 3? I can't. No, 4. Bad Bad Not Good 4, and yeah, he just took that song, basically like pumped the bass on it, and then just like rapped over it.
Jokes. That's awesome. I'm going to check that out.
And he got in a load of trouble on it because on the video, part of the video was him, like, I think it's like, was he dressed as a clown or something? I don't know, but he like pretends to shoot someone who's dressed as Trump.
Right. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. That's a heavy-handed political message you're throwing us there, Snoop. But
yeah, it wasn't subtle at all.
It wasn't very subtle. It's like, was it? Who is that comedian who was like holding up Donald Trump's head or something? Like they pretended to like cut off his head. I'm trying to remember. I want to say it's like someone called Kathy Griffin, but I have no idea if that's right. Wait, Kathy Griffin, Donald Trump. I'm pretty sure. I remember that being it. Yes, it is Kathy Griffin. Yeah. She held up like a mask that was like covered in blood. Like she was like holding up Donald Trump's head, and I remember her getting in massive trouble for that as well.
God, it's weird that people get I guess like people get very offended by it, and they're not on a base level. You can kind of understand it because the message is literally decapitation, but it's also just politics.
God, some bands you just hear things about like some bands like like King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, and they're all like, the crazy elements to what they're doing, and it's just like it's really inspiring, I must say. Like a lot of this, like hearing all this stuff from an artist's perspective, it's just like fuck, you can do anything you want, like. It's just, so good. So good.
Yeah, King Gizzard are ridiculous, aren't they? It's like, why don't we just make sure none of our instruments are ever in tune and make it all
exactly.
And it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And they make their best album. That's their best album, I think.
It's such an interesting idea, though, to have to step away from like traditional Western music, but while using traditional Western instruments.
Yeah. It's bizarre, absolutely bizarre. Have you got the vinyl of that? Because on the back, there's like this whole like message on the back about like how Western music is actually out of tune, and how like it's like not perfect. There's something to do with like it's like unperfection or something like that, and like how there are way more notes than the 12-note cycle makes room for, and more notes than even we're making room for on this album, and so it's crazy. Like if you look up the back of that album, because just the way it's written like a poem. It's so odd.
Why don't we talk about The Great Escape quickly? Because that's a festival that I have a little bit of experience with, having lived in Brighton for 3 years and played the Alternative Escape a couple of times.
Yeah, I've played the Alternative too. It's a good one.
It is a good one, although sometimes terribly organised. Like every other bookshop is like, "Oh, Alternative Escape, we can do that. We don't need we don't need a PA or power. People can just turn up."
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Always a bit strange, but you're on the actual real Great Escape, the creme de la creme.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
On the first 50. Who are you excited to see on that first 50 list?
Who am I excited to see on the first? Well, Zuzu for a start. I literally the music she's putting out at the moment is like some of the best guitar music that's coming out of the UK at the moment. I am a super fan of Zuzu's stuff. She just released a song called Dark Blue that's really, really good. And the last EP that she just had as well is amazing. What I was going to say was, we didn't bring up that we've bloody met each other before.
I know. I honestly, that still blows my mind.
Yeah, it still blows my mind as well. That was what a time. And when I listened to, because you spoke about it when you played my song a couple months back on Cool Moves, was I completely forgot that was in Charlottesville, which has obviously been in the news loads. And I remember just thinking like, I wonder where Charlottesville is, not knowing that I'd actually been there before, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And like you wouldn't think that like beautiful little town could ever suffer something like that.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. I couldn't think of a more like peaceful town for something like that to happen in. Crazy.
Yeah, that was like, because when it came up in the news, I was like, oh, it must be a different Charlottesville. And I was like, Charlottesville, Virginia. I was like, oh my god, yeah, because I guess they have the uni there, but that's like basically all that's there, and like a tiny little high street.
What were you doing in Charlottesville again?
It's super, so it was kind of weird. So Joe was studying out in America, so we took a little family trip out there to get him settled. We ended up going to Charlottesville, I feel like a day earlier than we were going to. Back in the hotel, like when we got there, I was just like aimlessly scrolling on Facebook, and because I was a big fan of Marietta, rest in peace. I was just like, oh, they're playing. Let's see. Like total surprise. I was like, wait, Charlottesville? Oh god, that's like here. And I looked up the venue. It was like a 4-minute walk, and I was like, well, I'm definitely going because there's literally ended up talking to Marietta afterwards, and then being like, oh yeah, there's this English guy who's doing our merch. You should go say hi.
And then it just happened to be me. How weird. How incredibly odd. It's just, that is a proper small world story.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? Like it's.
Well, I mean, it's kind of amazing that we've both had a small world story like that, where we've both met essentially on the other side of the planet and spoken together, and now we've spoken to each other probably from the greatest distance possible.
Yeah, that's also true. How spooky.
Yes, crazy, isn't it?
From what I can see from what you're posting about online and what you talked about before in interviews, and just the name of the project, obviously, why do dogs hold such a special place to the project?
Well, I've had dogs have been in my life since I was like, I don't know, 8, I think was when we got our first dog. The first dog called Lily, and there's a song by Fish Tank that's about that dog. Yeah, exactly. Dogs do hold a special place in my heart. But I've got 2 dogs. I've got a dog called Kaidi and a dog called Luna. I don't know what it is. The little image for Ed the dog is something that I've been drawing for years in like various forms, because I've been doing art for a long time at this point. I mean, since I can remember. But I've always drawn like that little dog shape and stuff. So when it came time to like choosing the name of this project, I don't know, it just felt it seemed like that image might be something to play off. And then I worked out that I wanted to be called Ed the dog. And also, whilst recording the whole thing, I mean, my dogs basically lived under the desk that was where I was making all this music. Luna is like the youngest dog I have, and she's just wants to, like, you know, play with the ball all the time, and like just wants to go for walks all the time. It's incredibly annoying when you're trying to write an album. But Heidi is like our older dog, and she's wonderful. She just, like, in the morning, like, I'll go down, like, make myself a coffee, and I'll go towards the stairs, and like Heidi will sit there and look at me and just like stand still with these like big wide open eyes, and then I'll go, come on then, and then she'll like leg it upstairs and go and sit under the desk, and then I sit and write music all day. So, you know, I've always got dogs around me, what even when the project wasn't called Ed the Dog. So it's sort of like it felt like the right thing to do. And I think everyone in the band has a dog. Oh no, David doesn't, but Charlie the guitarist has 2 dogs, and Zach also has a dog. And I think we're just, you know, it felt right to do that. But so yeah, I've had dogs for a very long time. I also had a pet tortoise once as well.
Ed the tortoise doesn't have the same ring though.
It doesn't, does it? It doesn't quite, but you know, what can you do? What can you do?
Ah, excellent. Well, fine. We'll do the final classic question that everybody will ask you, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I feel like you have to.
So what is it?
What's coming up this year?
So what's coming up for me? I'm announcing a super secret tour that I'm going on next week. So you'll find out about that because another band will say something about it. But we will also say something about it. And then for the rest of the year, we've got some other cool little shows lined up that I think people will hopefully want to attend. Yeah, I'm just at the moment working on album 2, and that'll be out hopefully, by the looks of things, early next year. And then also album 3, but that might get pushed to the year after. But yeah, we're pretty close on album 2, so yeah.
Oh, very prolific songwriting going on.
Well, you know, got nothing else to do.
Oh, super exciting. And you're doing the First 50 gig, well, part of that gig series at the Old Blue Lust. Yeah,
with Himalayas and Fuzzy Sun, 2 bands I'm very much looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, Himalayas are cool, aren't they? They're a very cool band.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't heard of them until the First 50 thing got announced, and I've been listening, and I like it. I do.
Oh, I'm trying to look for the date now for that thing so I can tell people that
I think it's the 27th, I think, of November.
I'm Googling it because I had this written down and now I've closed my question sheet because I read the last question out and I regret it.
No, that's fine. Wait, let's see.
27th, first. The 27th of November. There it is.
It is the 27th of November. Excellent.
Endless professionalism here.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe I got the date right. That's amazing.
Hey, smashed it out. Yeah, I'll see you there. I'm very excited.
Okay, awesome.
There we go. That was my lovely chat with Ed, edited down, of course, for length and clarity. We talked for quite some time, longer than that. And he was telling me about the finer details of that mystery tour. That's really exciting, so do head over to his socials and things on Wednesday when that'll be announced. It's very, very cool. Thank you very much for checking us out. We've got a bunch of other podcasts and interviews from myself and other members of Cool Moves Radio. It's on the podcast section on the website, and it gets uploaded to Mixcloud too, so you can check it out there. Thank you so much. I've been Nick. This has been Cool Moves Radio. We'll see you next time.